Good evening, everybody. My name is Alan Bowser. I'm a co-host of, co-chair of Safe Silver Spring, along with Yudi Rodriguez and Eric Hensel. We're on the call. Our board consists of the three of us, and other members are Daniel Terrelong, David Croma, Karen Matson, Amy Henchy, Julio Murillo, and Jacob Newman. This is the first of our quarterly meetings for Safe Silver Spring in 2022. We will have one in May, one in October, and one in December. Those are our special conversations with the members of the 3rd District
Close,
of
99.
CPD. We may have some special meetings throughout the year.
Including
We
Jacob
are a
Newman.
community-based nonprofit that was created about 10 years ago to facilitate conversation and dialogue between the public, between the community and the police department. It's been a very successful, useful exercise over the course of the last decade.
Lieutenant
If
Kim,
anybody is interested in
officer.
helping Safe Silver Spring, please reach out to us throughout our through our Facebook page, or contact me personally directly at alan.bowser@gmail.com. That's Alan, ALAN, .bowser, BOWSER @gmail.com. Without further ado, I'd like to turn the program over to Commander McBain and his deputies. And I also want to tell Commander McBain that we will miss Lieutenant Enstrom, who I understand has joined the police academy. Please pass along our regards and thank her for her service in the 3rd District. Without further ado, let me turn it over to our first speaker, Commander Dave McBain, who is the commander of the 3rd District of Montgomery County Police Department.
Thank you very much, Alan, and good evening to everybody. It's good to see you for the first time in 2022. For those of you who are consistently on these calls, we're going to stick with our format where I will give a brief overview of the district in general. And then we're going to go through our 3 sectors. And tonight, I have 3 of my 4 lieutenants on the call. I will do double duty tonight. Lieutenant Dave Reed, who oversees our George sector in our Central Business District, he has a different assignment, and he is busy tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and give his updates. And then eventually we'll make our way through the entire district, kind of go over everything that's important to us. Obviously we'll make ourselves available to answer any questions. In addition to my lieutenants on tonight, I also want to recognize one of my assistant chiefs. It's our newest chief, Carmen Falciolo. And before we get started, Alan, if we could just give the assistant chief just a quick second to introduce himself, and then we'll get right into it.
Great, thanks, Commander McBain, and great to see all of you again. I've seen some of you in the community and have had conversations, but more formally, I'm Carmen Pasio. I'm the new civilian assistant chief. And I only say civilian because I know it was a very interesting issue and from the county executive, and it was part of his public safety portfolio to appoint a civilian assistant chief. But again, my name is Carmen Faciolo. I come to you all here in Montgomery County after 5 years serving New York City in a similar capacity. And I previously worked in federal government service on criminal justice and homeland security issues. My role at the county is to really be the eyes and ears of the community and the voice of the community, and vice versa with the police department. And I oversee all of our efforts related to school safety, community policing, which we're building out, as well as community engagement. I'm looking forward to tonight's conversation and continuing the dialogue for the next months and years to come. So thanks for having me.
I appreciate it, AC Falciolo. So let's get right down to it. In starting out the new year, and we do a 21 to 22 comparison in just the month of January, I'm really happy to actually see that we have some declines in some crimes, and I'm going to go over those real quickly. Homicides, obviously, we are down 100% where we were last year. We had a homicide already in January of 21, but this year, knock on wood, we've done well, and we do not have any homicides. And robberies are down 23.8% this year as opposed to last year. Larcenies are down 20.5%. Aggravated assaults are down 22.2%. Now, those are the good numbers. The bad numbers, our burglaries, both commercial and residential, commercial and residential are up 29%. And unfortunately, auto thefts are up 90%. Just as we said last year, I will start out right out of the gate this year. Exactly 50% of our auto thefts are jump-in auto thefts, or where they're either running, the vehicles are running, or the keys are in the ignition. So we're going to be relentless with that message to take your keys and lock up your cars. It really makes a big difference for us and helps us out and prevents auto theft. So let's do that and get the message out to our community. So those are our numbers for the 3rd district. So I'm happy to see that we are trending in the right direction in a number of different categories. Now, I will say January, we started out great. February, we started to tick up a little bit. And I wanted to talk specifically about a couple things downtown that are of concern. We are seeing, last week in particular, we had a series of armed robberies or robberies in the downtown area at 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock in the mornings. That's not typical for us, and it is clearly outside of my crime suppression task force hours. So those are concerning. I will tell you that we have suspect information, and when I say that, we have vehicle information, we have some video, and we're working with our partners in the District of Columbia and Prince George's County, all of who are victims, have victims and have robberies very similar with the same MO, same vehicle, and we believe the same individuals doing robberies in all 3 jurisdictions. So we're working together to put a stop to that. Like I said, they're early morning, so be aware of your surroundings when you're out and about going to work. But I also intend to address that with an uptick in some of my resources to cover the 5 o'clock to 7 a.m. window that is really not covered, with the exception of normal patrols. But I'm going to put some additional patrols down in the Central Business District in those early morning hours in hopes of knocking down any further armed robberies. And that's extremely important to me. I'm not going to steal any of my lieutenant's thunder, but real quick, I want to say that each of these sectors, the Henry sector and the Ida sector up in White Oak and Burtonsville and out in Hillendale, we've got a lot of good success stories to not only close out the December of 2021, but also a start of January 22, where we've made some good proactive arrests. We've been doing a lot of good work throughout the entire 3rd district. The other thing that we've really kind of gotten in gear, which took a little bit of time to kind of get smoothly rolling, is we have a much better response to our traffic safety. And we rely heavily on our central traffic division, the Central Motors, and I will talk about their overall numbers in just a little bit. I'm going to have to try to look up one of my emails, but what's interesting for the district at the close of last year and now in January of this year, moving into February, is the day work and evening motors have been spending a significant amount of time on Georgia Avenue from the DC line to the Beltway, from New Hampshire Avenue from Wolf Drive, which borders the Wheaton or the 4th District, southbound to Four Corners in the White Oak area, and a number of different roads in between, Piney Branch Road, New Hampshire Avenue. So they've been making some significant impacts on our roadways. And I believe Lieutenant Kim in a little bit is also going to talk about some of our efforts on Route 29 as it relates to speeders up in the Briggs Cheney area. And again, I won't steal her thunder, but very happy to see what our traffic enforcement has been able to do early on this year. And I expect it to continue throughout the year. And I know it's very important for a lot of people on this call, but we are aware of it. We are addressing the egregious violations. And again, what you'll hear in a little bit is very promising. And I'm really proud of the work that my officers have done. So now I'm going to switch gears and talk about the Central Business District. As many people know on the call, the Central Business District back in October became the focus of most of my, I focused a lot on the Central Business District, but I made it very clear from the very beginning that I would not abandon the rest of this district. And I've stayed true to my word. And again, you're going to hear some good work that's been done up in our Ida sector and in our Henry sector, specifically with arrests for some commercial and residential burglaries and some other crimes. And so I'm very happy to say that all the work we're doing down in the Central Business District, we have not neglected the rest of the 3rd District. So let's talk about the Central Business District. Back in October, the Crime Suppression Task Force was created. And just to give a real brief overview with that, that was a sergeant, and depending on the night, it could be 5 or 6 officers. Those officers worked specific hours that they were basically data driven. They worked specific hours to address high crime and violent crime. And those individual officers, it was a kind of a hodgepodge of the 3rd District officers, but they were all volunteers. They were all extremely eager to be proactive, and they did just that. Just in the month of January, I just want to real quick just shoot through a number of arrests that they made. 2 loaded handguns based on traffic stops of vehicles, 1st-degree burglary, attempt 1st-degree burglary, possession of a concealed deadly weapon, multiple thefts, whether it's under $100 or up to $1,500, conspiracy to commit theft, malicious destruction of property, and possession of various drugs ranging from marijuana to methamphetamine to PCP to heroin. These guys have been on fire. In December alone, they seized 5 handguns in downtown Silver Spring. And I couldn't dig up the overall numbers from dating all the way back to October, but I will tell you that since October to current date, I believe that task force I know they've seized 15 guns, but I think it's 20. And so it's somewhere in that range, and I'll be able to get a better number for you guys, but that's significant. It's great that they're getting these guns. It's very scary to me that there's that many guns out there. So, but these guys are out, they're visible. They are making a very big impact on downtown Silver Spring. And really, I believe that's why you see a reduction in the aggravated assaults and the some of the other crimes, the robberies and things like that. In addition to the task force, I also have remained strong on my additional resources down in the Central Business District. I've got 4 officers that continue to work static positions on Friday and Saturday nights. Those officers are working till about 2 o'clock in the morning. However, it is not uncommon that I hold those officers over till about 4 o'clock in the morning. And it is also not uncommon that I hold officers over from the task force till about 4 o'clock in the morning. What I've always said is there's a fine line about how far do I push my officers, constantly holding them the way I do. I don't want to fatigue them, but I've been very successful in doing what I've been doing. Those officers that are working the 4 static positions, again, we're putting them in areas of concern to me. And then every hour, they are the officers that are doing the garage checks and just the high visibility that you see in the downtown. So basically the resources that I've put downtown, I think they're making a difference. We're going to continue with our efforts to keep this going. I am not letting up off the gas on this one, and we're going to continue to stay highly visible in the downtown area. I will say, I think it was earlier in the week or late last week, we had an incident on Silver Spring Avenue that drew a lot of attention because we actually had Prince George's County Police helicopter out, and it drew a lot of attention. I got a lot of emails. I will tell you that that incident, it involved a stolen vehicle. It involved shots fired. That vehicle, a vehicle was shot. And then unfortunately, some other vehicles on Silver Spring Avenue were shot. But what's interesting is almost everybody that was on that scene was a part of my crime suppression task force, or at least the overage of officers that I had working in the area to do just that, to get to these areas as quick as possible. We've identified some people that were involved. However, with a lot of these shooting calls, what we find is there's a reluctance to talk with police and to cooperate. So we continue to use ring video, use other types of video, and also we use ballistics to link these crimes to specific people. I want to just say one other thing. So from October to the present, that has been my plan. There's been some other things that we're starting to do. I will say, I'm unfortunately, I'm not saying they're out there tonight, but in the next 2 weeks, you should see stationary cameras, systems that are in downtown Silver Spring at key locations. We're going to start rolling those cameras out. You will see them. There'll be red and blue lights. They'll be very visible, and we're going to put them in areas again that we want to show a presence, and basically make sure people realize if you want to come down and do crime in Silver Spring, we're watching and we're videoing and we're documenting things going on. My officers will also have the ability to use those cameras to help them solve the various crimes that we have in downtown. And in addition to that, we have license plate reader vehicles that are out there. Those are cars that are reading tag numbers that are operating in the downtown. Specifically, those license plate readers are going to be hyper-focused on stolen vehicles and felonious drivers or occupants of those vehicles, so or owners of those vehicles. So those are a couple things that we're going to move forward with in the coming months, in the coming weeks, and we're going to continue that through 2022. I expect to see a lot of good stuff in the first quarter of this year, and I hope that the numbers continue to trend down. And the final thing that I'm really happy about, when in October, when I said I was going to address these issues downtown, it was kind of three-pronged. We were going to do community outreach, we were going to do high visibility and crime suppression, but then we were also going to deal with some of the lounges and nightclubs that we have operating at very early and late hours of the night. Again, I'm not going to steal any thunder from Lieutenant Jensen, who's going to speak in a little bit, but we've begun our compliance checks of several of the businesses that are operating in downtown Silver Spring, and we've made an impact. They know we're here. They know we're out there. We're working with a lot of stakeholders like Alcohol Tobacco Commission, alcohol, I used to DLC, it's alcohol Beverage
Services.
Commission something. It's a lot of acronyms, but we're working with a lot of acronyms. But the good thing is the police aren't doing all of the work. We're working with Jacob Newman's crews with the red shirts, and we're working with the fire marshal's office. We're working with these various permitting and licensing business, divisions from within Montgomery County government and the state of Maryland. And we're making an impact, we're making a difference, and we're going to continue those as well. So I'm going to be quiet now. I'm going to turn it over to, we're going to start with Lieutenant Kim in the Ida sector. And then after Lieutenant Kim goes, I'm going to introduce you to my newest lieutenant, Lieutenant Kevin Parker, who took over for Lieutenant Ingstrom, who, as Alan Bowser indicated, went to our academy to teach the next generation of cops. So with that being said, Lieutenant Kim, it's all yours.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to see everyone virtually. In chat, I think I try to keep up with some of the questions. I might have fallen behind a little bit. But so Ida sector, as Commander McBain already said, we've had a lot of since December, our primary trend and problem we've dealt with was burglaries. We've had a incident from middle of December to middle of January. So in a very short period of time, there were a series of burglaries that were in our Ida sector. That's like Outlet Drive, that's New Hampshire Avenue, Old Columbia Pike. And then some of that actually expanded also into 4th District as well, but predominantly in Silver Spring, 3rd District, and then some also, there was related cases also in Laurel and PG County as well. So our detectives as well as our officers and special assignment teams worked with 4th District and actually were able to make an arrest. There were 18 burglars total, and on early January, they arrested 3 individuals. All 3 individuals not from Montgomery County that were committing these burglaries, and we were able to close this set of trend. And since then, our burglary incidents have significantly decreased. So that was, from this middle of December to early January where these was happening, and we were able to take care of that with arrest of 3 individuals. In addition to that, during the same time frame, we also had another trend of burglaries. Originally, detectives thought that this might be related to the other ones, but these were actually separate standalone burglaries on New Hampshire Avenue, and there were 8 incidents, and our officers, our special assignment team, was able to make an arrest of another individual on this, and actually since then we have not seen a single burglary of this kind either. So in the month of December and January, our biggest problem was these commercial burglaries in our White Oak, and that's Fairland and Burnsville. So however, we've made a really good arrest on these. 4 individuals are in jail as a result of it, and we were able to actually squash a lot of the burglar problems that we had. Since then, we have had also shed burglaries, residential shed burglaries. So these are your detached sheds where you keep your lawn equipment, tools, and whatnot. And a lot of times these incidents are where the sheds are not locked. So my request to the community is to make sure you lock your sheds. If you have serial numbers for any of the power tools, to have those written down somewhere. Those are all very helpful for our detectives to try to track them down. So, or apply, you could just write your own numbers or information or some way to distinguish the items stolen as yours. Again, all of those informations are very helpful for look out for any suspicious situations in the neighborhoods late at night, vehicles that you don't recognize that's driving up and down. So just help each other out. Please be on the lookout, and anything, please report that to by calling non-emergency. Like I said, we are seeing people breaking into unlocked sheds right now. So that's what we're trying to address right now. In addition to that, Commander McBain talked about the traffic stuff. So I'm sure everybody heard there was a triple fatal tragic incident on Brick Cheney and 29 and Old Columbia Pike. And so as a result of that, our officers went out and did traffic enforcement and education in the area, just again to help the community realize that, you know, they need to be mindful of their speed. What was shocking is the speed limit is 55 miles per hour. However, officers were able to find numerous drivers who were driving well above 80, well above 90, as well as one even 112 miles per hour. So officers took appropriate actions for these drivers. But again, just please be mindful of the roads and being a safe and courteous driver to others as well. So we are addressing these speed, aggressive driving and speed complaints as well. And then another one is we've been dealing with a lot of the commercial vehicles along Old Columbia Pike, and we have actually, our traffic complaint officer was able to handle a lot of that. Commander talked about stolen vehicles. In just the month of January, our patrol officers were able to make 2 separate stolen vehicle arrests. Again, that's just in January. Additionally, there's been multiple arrests for handguns as well. It's not just in downtown Silver Spring, but also in Ida sector as well, that officers are making numerous handgun arrests. Recently, there was also somebody asked about non-fatal shootings. We've had 2 this year. Since our last meeting, we've had 2 non-fatal, actually 3. One is an accidental, 3 non-fatal shootings in the Ida sector, and at least one of those situations, the officer was the first one to arrive on scene, render aid, and actually save the individual's life as well, which is very common for our officers to do. So those are some of the highlights in Ida sector. At the end, I'll answer any questions. For the time being, I'll turn it back over to Commander to introduce Lieutenant Parker.
Thank you, Lieutenant Kim. So Lieutenant Parker has just been promoted. He has been here for not too long, and like I said, he took the place of Lieutenant Engstrom in our Henry sector. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Parker, and he can give just a basic rundown of where he's been on the department, and then overview of the Henry sector.
All right, thank you, Commander. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. So my name is Kevin Parker. I've been here about a month now. I actually did most of my patrol time in Silver Spring. So I'm happy to be back. I did the last 11 years in our Special Operations Division. So I'm hoping I can bring some insight from other experiences I had in the department to this role. So I work in the Henry sector is my section, but I also have the community traffic complaint officer and the community service officer. So I know the commander touched on some of the work that community traffic complaint does. And some of you might know this, but one of the tools that he has at his disposal is we have a trailer with a message board that we utilize to help educate the public on messages that we need to get out in a particular area. So if we're experiencing, and it doesn't just have to be traffic related, but a lot of what we do with that trailer is traffic. But if we have a high incidence of theft from vehicles, where people are not locking their vehicles or they're leaving things out in the open, we can deploy that trailer to your neighborhood to put a message to remind people. We also use it to alert commercial vehicle drivers to not park in a residential area where it's specifically prohibited by signage or the ordinance in that area. So we do that ahead of time before we step up to the enforcement phase to give people fair notice that their vehicles can't park in whatever particular area that is. So that's just a resource that we have available to us. As far as some of the things that I've seen since I've come back to Silver Spring, so we've experienced a lot of community complaints for quality of life issues in and around the Long Branch Recreation Center, which is on Piney Branch Road. And we've actually had some assaults, including one aggravated assault directly in front of the center, which is currently being utilized to house homeless males. So that's a concern for us. And we've been meeting with stakeholders, and we have individual meetings with those stakeholders to address these issues with a large stakeholder meeting at the end of the month. So we're looking forward to working with not only those stakeholders, but Park Police, because the center is on park property, to address that. As the weather gets warmer, we really see opportunity here for us to engage with the community, but we want to do that in a safe environment and make sure that everybody has the facility and the park available to them. But we can only do that if it's safe to do so. On that note, with our community service officers, you may have seen them downtown last year. I know they have done several pop-up events where we come out and we'll set up, meet the community, and provide information to the community. And as you probably know, we are heavily recruiting for all positions really, but particularly for sworn officers. So one of the things that is coming up on our radar is we're going to be working with Montgomery College Tacoma Park campus to set up a tent and do some recruitment with our recruitment unit from headquarters. And then I just want to share a quick success story from Woodmore, the Woodmore neighborhood, where they have been experiencing problems with vandalism, particularly drivers driving into the park and doing donuts in the field. So we met with Park Police, and Chief McSwain has been extremely helpful with not only that area, but also the Long Branch Recreation Center. But in Woodmore, Pinecrest Park had experienced quite a bit of damage, and Sergeant Sherrod from Park Police made quick work of that issue, and they were able to put fencing and bollards up to prevent vehicles from entering that park. So that's just a quick success there. But that's most of what I have. Like I said, I look forward to working with everybody on some of these issues, and happy to be back in Silver Spring.
Okay, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Tenesha Jensen. I can't remember if Lieutenant Jensen's been on this call or not, but if she has, then you know her. If not, she'll introduce herself. And Lieutenant Jensen oversees our midnight officers. We have 2 shifts that work continually 7 days a week from 8 p.m. to 6 in the morning. And Lieutenant Jensen oversees them, and she has some other responsibilities as well. But I'd like her to actually focus in a little bit on the compliance checks and also just a few of the other things that she's working on.
All right, good evening, everyone. Yes, this is actually my second appearance here at the meeting. I think the last one was in December, where I gave an introduction of myself shortly after I joined the 3rd District. So as Commander McBain said, yeah, we've been doing some great stuff in downtown Silver Spring. And one of the things that we have been working on lately have been compliance checks. So just to kind of give a brief overview so everyone knows, can follow along with what I'm talking about. So compliance checks is usually, it's a process that involves like a review and an analysis, making sure that business establishments are conforming to local and state law. It's nothing new. law enforcement has used it in the past to regulate underage sales of alcohol and tobacco that occur in some of these establishments. Interesting enough, compliance checks were even used kind of in the height of the pandemic, just to, like I stated before, to make sure that businesses are complying to whatever mandates, whatever laws that are out there. So for the last couple of months in particular, we've had some, crime, heightened crime that has been in downtown Silver Spring during the late night hours, that a lot of it is, just to be frank, is attributed to some of these businesses, the nightlife, the bars, and hookah lounges. So what we have done, Montgomery County Police, we are working in partnership, and I know that Commander McBain touched on some of those partners earlier, but we've been working in partnership with environmental protection, alcohol beverage services, alcohol tobacco compliance, Department of Health and Human Services, and soon to be our fire marshals, in order to make sure that these business establishments are in check. So what we do is we go in, we identify violations, problems, and it's not just that these owners at these businesses are being cited, but there's also an education component behind it. So they're being warned, they're being educated in the area in which they're in violation. What we look for in doing these compliance checks is basically to reduce any potential problems that will threaten overall safety and well-being of our community. So as I know Jacob Newman had typed in the chat earlier, we've also been working, I named some of the partners, the government agencies that we've been working with, but we've also been working with the businesses too, where they've actually have hired extra police officers to be in the area, in addition to our crime suppression task force, in addition to my midnight officers that work those hours. So some of the businesses have been extremely compliant and working with us. But this, I want everyone to understand, this isn't just a police problem. We're using all resources of the government to tackle this. So some of the hookah bars and lounges, just to explain, in Montgomery County, hookah bars and lounges possess what's known as a trader license for a tobacco shop. So basically what that means is they're only permitted to sell tobacco and incidentals. So lighters, whatever it is that you can use with tobacco, but they're not to sell food and drink. That falls under the Clean Indoor Air Act, where it's illegal to smoke in an indoor area that's open for the public. So what we've been doing over the last couple of weeks, we had our first compliance check at the end of January. We had one just this past weekend, as we've been going in with Health and Human Resources, with ABS and ATC, just to make sure that everyone's in compliance. And without going into great detail, but some of the violations that these businesses have been cited for have been for alcohol, have been for tobacco, have been licensing issues, mask mandate violations, and crowding issues that we've discovered, which, like I said before, the whole the long-term outcome of this is to ensure the safety of our community. So when you think about some of those violations that we found already, that would threaten keeping the community safe. So we hope to continue working in this partnership with the businesses, with these government agencies, to continue to reach some short-term and long-term goals. And I know that just as a side note, that we also do plan on coupling this with, well, we have our alcohol initiatives unit has been joining in on these compliance checks. So we're also going to have them in the area over the next couple of weeks, especially with Valentine's Day and Super Bowl Sunday coming up this coming weekend, just to do some DUI enforcement, some saturation patrols, just again, to ensure that overall safety and quality of life for downtown Silver Spring. Thank you.
So I think that's all of the lieutenants, and we've gone around the whole district. I'll close out with this because a lot of times I get these questions and usually in the chats afterwards, but I talk about my staffing levels and my areas of concern and why I have some staffing issues, and we'll just the numbers will speak for themselves, but I'm down 24 officers right now. That's resignation, retirement, some extended leave for military. And then also I have some officers occasionally that are in our restrictive duty unit because of an injury. But right now I'm operating with 24 fewer officers than I'm slated to have at full staff. We do have four new rookies that just came out of our last class. I think the 4th district and the 3rd district received the largest number of rookies. We both got 4. Our academy classes are smaller than they have been in the past, and that is concerning. But we will continue to train up these rookies as we get them and get them acting as individual single officers just as soon as possible. Is typically about a 15-week process. So these guys, and well, all guys this time for Silver Spring, but they're all out and about, and they've got a couple weeks under their belt already. So that's it, Alan, for our overview of the 3rd district.
Thank you, Commander McBain. This is the time, everybody, wait to ask questions of the 3rd District police officers. I'd like to lead off Commander McBain, and I saw this question in the chat. Lieutenant Jensen talked about the compliance checks and talked about several violations that they had. What's the penalty? What's the accountability? What's the next step after you go in and you see alcohol or tobacco or violation of the mask requirements?
I'll let Lieutenant Jensen answer that one. It gets very complicated when we're talking about just hookah and alcohol. And so I'll let her, she's really done a lot of work with that.
Thank you, Commander. So when it comes, let me be very clear when I say that these establishments are being cited for violations. They are not being cited by the police department, by law enforcement. We are there to provide that safety and security for our agents and investigators that are going into the establishments, as well as the patrons that are there as well. But these citations are issued by the government entities that I told you about earlier, ABS, ATC, whoever it might be. And I know that in working with them, I've asked that same question. I'm like, is there, like a 3 strikes and you're out kind of penalty system? And it doesn't quite operate that way. Obviously, for some of the more harsher penalties, they can be shut down, such as crowding issues. I mean, that's a huge concern, right? If they're operating the facility, like I said before, where there's food and drink and there's not supposed to be, and people are smoking. Yeah, I think that those are some examples of violations where the establishments can be shut down. But some of the other ones, not only do we want to work through in citing them, but like I said, there's an education component too, right? Because we do understand they are business owners of Silver Spring, of the community, and they are being patronized. So we do want to educate on some of these lesser violations. The larger violations, that's all left up to like Health and Human Services, and just basically what steps they take after a certain amount of violations and education, and depending on what kind of violations we're looking at before the businesses are actually shut down. Hopefully that clarifies that question.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was very helpful. Asking people in the audience to raise their hand, use the raise your hand function. You find it under reactions, and then we'll just take all the questions. So there it is popping up for me. You click on reactions at the bottom, you get to raise and lower your hand. I see that
Kevin Parker.
Ellen Kahn.
Yeah, actually, there are a number of questions in the chat that folks have been putting in. So if someone's able to cover those, since I think you invited questions early on, I want to make sure that you all see those.
Yeah, a lot of the questions we've been answering back to, at least some of them, I've been answering the specific requester. But I can go through a couple of these real quick if you'd like, just to knock down a few of these things. One gentleman asked about the trailer. We used to have a substation at the corner of University Boulevard at Piney Branch. I'm not really sure why that trailer went away, but what I indicated in the chat was when we moved to White Oak, a lot changed down here with substations and where we were operating. When we moved up to White Oak, we opened up the Central Business District substation in downtown Silver Spring. So I don't know exactly why the trailer was, that was always a temporary trailer. But once we had the Central Business District office, that trailer kind of went away and became something else at that point. Let's see. I did talk about the different sectors. I apologize. I know that I don't know if Eileen Finnegan's on the call, but sometimes I get caught up in talking about the different sectors by their designation. But generally speaking, the George sector is downtown, down along George Avenue, Colesville Road, the downtown area, and then the outskirts. And then as you move farther up Colesville Road into Four Corners and also into Hillendale, that's our Henry sector. And when you move into White Oak and beyond, kind of to Burtonsville and beyond to the Howard County line, that's our Ida sector. So when we speak of those things, that's typically what we're talking about. If we're talking about specific crimes, we usually are pretty specific about the location of the crime, of where the crime occurred. One individual asked, what constitutes a quality of life? A lot of times we have minor crimes, we have obviously violent crimes, and then we have crimes that we consider quality of life issues, right? And Lieutenant Parker touched on them a little bit. Urinating in public, disorderly conducts, things that just give a perception of just not just making a good environment in our district. They typically, quality of life is highly focused in our downtown area of the district, where we have some of these very issues that we try to resolve with not just by arrest, but working with HHS with our crisis intervention, especially when the quality of life issues are a result of a homeless person, which a lot of times that occurs. So I hope that answers that.
I know that Lieutenant Parker wanted to talk about the catalytic converters.
Sure,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
Just real quick, the question that was in the chat and a few people commented on.
Yeah.
No, sorry about that. Many of us have I don't know how, if this is like, founded in evidence, but East Silver Spring Elementary School and the Veterans Plaza both have been sort of cited as, and I know on some listservs a lot of observations at East Silver Spring Elementary in particular of a lot of open air kind of, drug deals. And so can you say something about how we as residents can be helpful? Like, what should we report, if anything? And then are there things you're doing to try to deter? I loved hearing that you put up fences at Long Branch Park to deter, hot rodders. Could we put up lighting? Could we, just do things to address where we think some of this drug traffic is happening?
Yeah, certainly with the elementary school, we can work with our partners with Montgomery County Public Schools. A lot of times I don't talk a lot about our drug investigations because oftentimes they involve detectives that we just don't talk about those things. So because we don't talk about it doesn't mean it's not being addressed. But I can tell you from a perspective from the district station, my officers, they make a number of drug arrests, but specifically in these targeted areas, Veterans Plaza, East Silver Spring, those areas, really it's the high visibility and actually making the appropriate stops when probable cause is established to address these crimes. When it comes to marijuana, obviously hot button topic. We still are issuing, and that was something that was interesting. An individual had asked, are we still arresting individuals for small possession of marijuana? The reality is we do not arrest for small amounts of marijuana. That's a civil violation. Nobody's ever detained, but they're issued civil citations for amounts less than 10 grams. Amounts over 10 grams, and when I say over, it's got to be significantly over. We are still charging the possession of marijuana, and typically it's possession with the intent to distribute or distribution itself. Now, I will say that a lot of the guns from downtown are synonymous with marijuana, and that's a fact. And we're getting those guns along with the marijuana. So that is going to still continue to be something that we will focus on until the state completely changes things. And that's a whole nother topic. But Ms. Khan, to your first point, to go back to the old saying, but see something, say something. If you see something that doesn't look right, or somebody in the neighborhood that doesn't really fit in, or is acting suspicious and doing things that just don't seem right, it is not wrong to call our non-emergency number, to have an officer come by, take a look at it for themselves. If anything, you can obtain a tag number, you can get a good description of the individual, and just let us know exactly what it is that you saw. And we can maybe even answer your question, or we could follow up with you about what we did or did not do, whether we stopped the individual or did not stop them. But I will encourage you though, I would not confront, obviously. Just let us do that. But the more detail that you can give us about things and people and cars, the better off it is for us.
Lieutenant Parker?
Yeah, sure. So there was a question in the chat about catalytic converters, and the question specifically was that they've been stolen out of cars in their driveways, parked in front of homes, and that's true. So this is a trend that we are seeing and are aware of. It's not specific to one neighborhood. It's not even specific to just Silver Spring. We're seeing this throughout the county. So we have an officer in Silver Spring that specifically tracks these cases. So some of the other questions are, how can you protect your vehicle? And then things of, are we investigating who's buying this? So the reason that we're seeing this is because the value in the metal for the catalytic converter. And so the thieves are taking it to scrap yards because it's a quick 5 minutes to cut it off the vehicle and an easy couple $100 for the thief. We are watching the scrap yard. So when somebody scraps a catalytic converter, they do have to show ID, and that's recorded at the scrap yard. But what we've seen in the few arrests that have been made from these thefts are that they're not really scrapping them locally. We have not identified how far they're going to go to a scrap yard, but that's not being locally because we are watching, even regionally, we're watching the scrap yards. Our officer here in Silver Spring actually was able to place charges on an attempt catalytic converter theft from last month. But like I said, that individual, it's unlikely he was involved in other thefts. So we have not seen evidence to indicate that it's one person conducting all of these. It seems to be sporadic, and again, it's not one specific neighborhood. But one thing that we can do to help try to end this is spread the awareness. So if owners of the Toyota Prius specifically has been targeted for that particular catalytic converter, brings a higher dollar for the thief. And so anybody that has that, or somebody in your neighborhood has that, something as simple as parking it in front of a doorbell camera, something that would give us something of evidentiary value to follow up would definitely help.
Thank you, Lieutenant Parker. Teresa Testoni? You're still muted, Teresa.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm just overwhelmed by the work you do, and I think it's so important that we thank you and appreciate all that you do. So thank you, thank you. I live right nearby your police station, and as I drove by the other day, I was so concerned because I saw a police car on your lawn with a black flag, and I understand that an officer passed away due to a medical incident. So my condolences for that. But I just wanted to thank you. And I'm a member of the Rotary Club of Downtown Silver Spring, and we'd love to have you come and present when the time is right. But just, I wanted to thank you, and you truly are detectives. I had no idea all the behind the scenes Sherlock Holmes work you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you very much. It goes a long way. And I can tell you that we pass this on in roll calls. A lot of it, we tend to go to roll calls and talk about these meetings with the community. I think that sometimes my officers think that, it's all bad, but then there's things like these meetings where a lot of good comes out of it. And all I'd encourage everybody on the call to do is, if you see one of my officers out there, don't hesitate just to say hello and engage them in a conversation. I expect them to engage you back. And I think you'll find it's a good encounter. But thank you very much, ma'am.
And just one last thing, how can we support you other than maybe serving on a committee and giving greetings and baking cookies and stopping by? Is there anything else that we can do for you?
I think staying active in things like this, remaining vigilant in your community, engaging officers when you see them, and also, when things bother you, and it's not necessarily a police issue, but maybe a government issue, speak your mind and speak what's important to our leaders. There's no mystery, but we are we're losing officers at an alarming rate, and Montgomery County Police Department has fallen to the worst paid agency in the state of Maryland. And so that is highly affects our retention. And so I would recommend maybe just voicing your opinion about that, I'd have to say. But thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Kathleen Smith.
Hello, this is Bernard Van Leer from 700 block of Silver Spring Avenue. Thank you, officers, for everything you do. We really appreciate it. We know it's tough out there, and we have some questions on Silver Spring Avenue about last Friday night. We all heard the shots. We all know there was a shooter on the loose. We were told to get back into our houses. What can you tell us about this? We have a ring, we have a nest video of people coming into our neighborhood in a vehicle. What, I mean, I know it's under investigation, but we'd love to know what you can tell us about this incident. Thank you.
Yeah, so not much more than what you've said, and like I had said in my opening, the lack of cooperating witnesses and or victims proves to make our job that much harder. That was a culmination of a number of different things coming together, and we're still trying to piece together the exact scenario of how that all played out. But it involved a stolen vehicle. It involved a potential robbery. It definitely involved some shots fired. We have not seized any firearms at this time. We have not made any arrests at this time, but we're just continuing to follow up on that investigation. I will tell you that as that kind of evolved throughout the morning, the same detective was out there and was relatively quick in his response and kind of piecing that all together. But we have no further information really to provide you right now. No arrests have been made, and I will continue to give updates as I get them.
I have a follow-up.
Yes, sir.
Were any shell casings found?
I believe they were, yes.
Okay, that should, so will you be able to get fingerprints off those, or I don't know how that works?
No, it doesn't work. A lot of times with the ballistics, what you see is we do comparisons, and a lot of times what happens, similar to a fingerprint, a fired shell casing has some unique, uniqueness to them, and they go into databases. And what we tend to do is that gun will be used somewhere else. We tend to be able to track them down and put that gun in somebody's hand at a later date, and then we backtrack to see where that gun's been used in the past. And what we find, especially in downtown Silver Spring, is that being used regionally, PG, Prince George's County, the District of Columbia, and also in Northern Virginia. So that's where a lot of our handguns are coming from, those three areas of the DMV.
Thank you.
Before we
Yes,
go
sir.
to Edmundo, Commander McBain, since we last met at the end of the year, there was an officer involved shooting in our neighborhood.
Yep.
Is there anything you can tell us about? I know it's been turned over to the Attorney General, but can you tell us anything about that incident, and if the officer is still on administrative leave? What can you tell us?
All four officers are still on administrative leave because of the new laws where the Maryland State Police and the Attorney General's office, they are the lead prosecutors and investigators. They 100% have that case. And so I'm not even really allowed to comment on the outcome, how it's progressed. Officer involved shootings always take quite a bit of time. And I think even with our new protocols and the fact that the Attorney General's office is dealing with it, I don't think it's really speeding anything up. And I think it's still going to take probably several more months before we'll see those officers back and or a decision by the Attorney General.
Thanks. I thought it was important to at least mention it since it last happened.
Absolutely.
Edmundo Vasquez, please.
Yes, just quickly. Last Friday, we heard some noise, 7 to 8 at night, and some glass broken, some noise. We couldn't find anything. Next morning, we realized that there was a bullet impact in one of the windows of our den. We called the police. The couple of guys came in almost immediately. They investigated. They said it was probably a small caliber or a BB gun. And we would like to know what's next. It's not nice to be sitting in your den and get a bullet in your window.
Yeah.
I don't know, how do we work together? I mean, there was a question on that before. How do we work together to help you out? I have some cameras. I wouldn't mind, connecting them to your system if you need them at some point, give you access to the files. I couldn't see anything on this occasion. You can see a bullet coming to your house. But
Yeah,
it is pretty scary. Here in the Sligo Park Hills, we told the neighbors and we told them that there was this event, and they connected to us. They told us that there was some event that Friday night on cars being stolen or were trying to, but I don't have the evidence. They just told us. But this is pretty scary, and I appreciate all the work you guys are doing, of course, and the promise that the two officers came immediately to see us and very kindly and check everything. But what else can we do? I mean, is it?
So do you live in Burnt Mills?
No, I live in Sligo Park Hills here in Devon and Parkcrest Drive.
Okay.
Intersection. Yeah.
So we saw something very similar early last year, and actually Alan and I spoke about this, and I tried to get information out when this occurred on Silver Spring Avenue, where an individual was driving early morning hours, driving down the street and shooting out car windows with a BB gun. It's very, very hard to apprehend somebody for those kind of random acts that just happen very quickly, and the person moves on. Burnt Mills and a couple different locations, we did see people. Initially, we actually even responded as if it was a shooting, and we quickly determined that it was in fact BBs, which it doesn't help out the owner of the house that has the window broken, but it does make me a little more at ease knowing that it's not it's not gunfire. It's very hard. There is no ballistics with BBs, just so anybody knows. We don't collect them in order to get any type of evidence off of them. What we do try to do is we try to track the information. We try to track where these things are occurring, and then we just push our patrol officers in those specific sectors to try to do patrols overtly during the times when we're seeing, the act occur. And anybody who if you're a victim of a crime where you think your Ring video or your Nest or whatever has captured evidence, absolutely, I've put the number here several times, but you can call the non-emergency phone number 301-279-8000. Let them know that you have video, and let us come out and view it and see if it's of any value that we could put together to piece something together. Because you might have something you think you don't have anything, but when we start piecing together different videos, things start to kind of make sense. And so you never know. So we'd rather see the video and make a decision for ourselves that it would not be beneficial.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Albie, you've got your hand raised. Please ask your question.
Yeah, hi, this is Albie. I'm the new safety chair over in Woodside Park. And I wanted to ask specifically about the CVS over on Seminary and George Avenue. I haven't seen anything since the actual event. And then, if there's any increased presence or anything, any action being taken. I know some of the residents were a little concerned about going up there after that. So wanted to ask.
Yeah, so I don't have any specific updates for that. See, you're talking about the robbery that happened there?
Yeah, the pharmacy.
Yep. But now, and one of my lieutenants can correct me if I'm wrong. One of our other districts made a significant arrest of armed robbers who were targeting pharmacies. Now, the tough part about that is because it occurred in a different district, and our headquarters robbery detectives are the ones that are handling it. I don't know if those, it takes a little bit of time, and then all of a sudden they roll out and they end up kind of pinning various robberies throughout the county. I don't know if that one was linked into the arrest that they made, but up in Leisure World, we had one of our surveillance teams that actually watched a robbery go down of the pharmacy up there, and made a great arrest. And so Albie, I'll get back to you in basically, I can push information through Alan, but I'll see if they in fact did link that robbery to that arrest.
Okay,
So
appreciate that.
oftentimes, I'm gonna
Yeah,
piggyback off that. So oftentimes, a lot of these, like as mentioned previously, commercial burglaries and robberies are very similar, especially when it comes to pharmacy robberies. They are often part of a trend. And so I can tell you that the one that you're referring to, we haven't had any since in our 3rd district. So if it could be that that's a link to the one that Commander is talking about, or it could be just one isolated and we don't have any additional. So, but usually they're part of a trend.
Okay, thank you.
So, Commander McBain, we referenced the passing away of one of your officers, I guess Officer Haggerty. I wonder if you could say a few words, it'd be appropriate to say a few words about him to the people who gathered here this evening, and we can remember him in that way.
yeah, sure. I appreciate that, Alan. So Doug Haggerty had approximately 12 years on our police department, all 12 in the Silver Spring or the 3rd district. And that says a lot. Very interesting. He, after working here for 12 years, he requested and finally got a transfer to our 1st district up in Rockville. He only worked up there for 3 days before he passed away on Friday. So I claim him as mine still. Back in March when I got here, I can tell you, totally, completely honest, there's just guys that you run into all the time, and you develop relationships a lot quicker with some guys than you do with others, just because of the times I work, and also just sometimes some of their the conversations that you strike up. Doug Haggerty, I gotta say, just a positive guy. He again, working 12 years in the district, he was highly effective. He loved working down here. He's got a great family, and obviously, we're mourning his loss. A lot of it was medical, and it's just what a shock that we lost Doug, and we're really going to miss him. And it's interesting. I heard our chief say, I think in the press conference, we are a family, and he's a part of our community, part of our family here at the station, and it hits home, just like losing a very good friend or brother or sister. So I appreciate you letting me say those words, Alan, and thank you very much. He'll be remembered tomorrow at St. Camilla's Church down in off New Hampshire Avenue. I will say that Father Brian Jordan has been awesome. I speak to him quite a bit, but he reached out and he accepted the family into the church, and so they're going to pay tribute to him tomorrow, and then we're going to move on.
Thank you for those words. When the incidents happened last Friday in East Silver Spring, I was contacted by the president of the East Silver Spring Citizens Association, Civic Association, about who to reach out to. I gave him your email address and telephone number, but he asked me about the community engagement officers or the liaisons. And I wonder if you've got a name and a number to share with us. So if people have got concerns, they can call the 3rd district and get a hold of somebody.
So a couple things. A lot of people on the call will probably know Joy Bartholomew, who is one of my community engagement officers. We only have Joy for like another year. She's in the drop and she's retiring on me. She's got about 25 plus years on. No, she's got almost 28, I think. But then also I have Glenda Franco, and Glenda's really stepped up and really taking on a lot more responsibilities. you can reach both of them by calling our district station phone number. And I'll give that out in a second. I always have to look it up because once we went to the new phone numbers, I get lost in them. But Alan, I will tell you that this kind of segues into something I was going to say. A lot of people on the call know that I have a 3D Commander email, and I encourage you, if you have questions or concerns, or if you have things that you want to bring to my attention, that's absolutely an avenue which you can, you can reach me on. But it's not for crimes in progress or to report a crime. And a lot of times I get, because I obviously don't monitor it all the time, but sometimes I will come in and I will get an email from an individual talking about a crime that is occurring. And clearly I obviously didn't respond to it. So just remember, that's a communication email that is not to report a crime or to provide evidence, information, or things like that. It's a way to contact me. So just remember that. And the 3D phone number is 240-773-6800. And like I said, you can call that number, ask for Glenda Franco or Joy Bartholomew, and they can work on any one of your community engagement
I also put our community service unit's email that
Yep.
goes to them, and it goes to a sergeant who's in charge of our community operations unit, as well as the station phone number in chat for everybody's information.
Yeah, thank you, Lieutenant Kim. You've been great this evening sharing information for us. So we appreciate that.
She's
everybody-
the brains of the operation, Alan.
Everybody, we're winding up. Are there any more questions for our guests from the 3rd District? Director Newman, I'll call on you. Anything you'd like to say nice about Montgomery County Police 3rd District?
Yeah, no, I just, will echo the appreciation. It's been really a pleasure and an honor getting to know Commander McBain and all of the lieutenants here, and especially Lieutenant Reed, who you stole a little bit of his thunder. I have a lot of appreciation that, he's taken the time in being responsive to get to know businesses, to get to know residents. And so while there's, plenty of good work and hard work to do ahead of us, we appreciate you being here with us tonight. I appreciate that as a board member and as the Regional Services Director here in Silver Spring. And, if you do have recommendations, comments, just kind of on more broadly on things that are happening in the downtown area or across the region, please feel free to reach out to myself. I'll put my number in my email in the chat. And yeah, it's been a great evening with you all.
Thank you, Jacob. Everybody, these are quarterly meetings. Our next one is not scheduled until the second Wednesday in May, and then in October and December. If something comes up and may require sort of a community gathering, we'll have a special meeting. But on behalf of the board of Safe Silver Spring, I want to thank Commander McBain and his lieutenants and all of our residents who joined us this evening. Thank you all. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very, very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.